What's up, everybody? This is me with baby Leo here. Don't forget to like and subscribe in the video below. Say hi, everybody. Say hi, Leo. Say hi. Thank you for watching, guys. Welcome, everybody, to Tectonic Takes. I'm here with the really special guest. You all know him. He's from Telemundo. What's up, Carlos Yustis? How you doing?
Hi Fabian, how are you? Good. Nice to be back. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels weird, right? Like I feel like since the Quake siren break, like we're kind of break. Like it's an awkward moment right now with all the national team stuff going on.
Yeah, no, and we could talk a little bit international breaks and all that too. But yeah, no, it definitely feels weird, especially 19 days in the middle of a season. It doesn't feel right. So yeah, I know exactly where you're at. And it feels like a long time since you've been on, but it really has only been like what, 4 months. So definitely the COVID years just feel like they stretch and they just fly by at the same time. So definitely excited to have you back on and to talk some Quakes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been one of those seasons again, right?
Yeah,
we were expecting that past COVID things were gonna be a little more, fluid to look for a good word, and it just hasn't been. But it is what it is, and that season is really long, so there's still room for improvement.
Yeah, and this team is really streaky. So I mean, we're on a bad streak right now, and hopefully, once the whole international breaks over, we can get on a good streak and maybe go back into that 3rd or 4th spot in the playoffs position. But quickly talking about this international break, did you catch the game last night? Did you see the game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did. No, I'm just kidding. As a Mexico fan, obviously, you don't like to lose against the U.S. But I think it's one of those games that is good for the rivalry, and it's also good. Like a lot of people talk about how Mexico wouldn't qualify to the World Cup if they played in South America, right? That's a big topic of conversation. I think this U.S. team in particular shows that the quality is there on both sides. So to have a game like yesterday shows you like, hey, I don't know, you shouldn't sleep on these two teams regardless. Like, right, might not be the contenders, especially looking how the European teams look right now, but you should always keep an eye on these teams because they give you good games. There's a lot of mistakes, in the game, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, no, definitely. What didn't happen that game, right? So we had 2 penalties called, bottles thrown. We had the stoppage for the discriminatory language. Everything happened that game. Berhalter in going to get the ball when the Mexican player is trying to get the ball. Like, what was happening this game?
Tata got a red card. The biggest storyline that people like, I don't know if he kind of gets lost in the mix of all this going on. Is the fact that Zach Steffen gets injured, he pulls out, and whoever comes in ends up being the hero. And he's a hometown hero because he's from Denver. So I think that storyline was actually my favorite out of the game because, I mean, regardless of the result, the fact that how things happen for the U.S. and in that sense to have a homegrown player from that area to come.
Yeah, that's true.
The big savior was to me my favorite part of the whole thing.
Yeah, and I was watching it on a Spanish broadcast, and they were saying how Horvath is used to blocking penalties, and I was like, oh, here comes the storyline. Here comes the storyline, right? But yeah, no, definitely one of the craziest games I've ever seen outside of a World Cup game. So I thought it was insane. I love how Mexico always shows up, even if it's an away game. That's the best, right? Because that's when you get the fire. That's when you get Christian Pulisic shushing his home crowd, right? So it's like, what's going on here?
That part is crazy because you see the picture everywhere, right? And you're thinking like, you realize you're playing Denver, Colorado, right?
Right. or you get some people tweeting like, oh, where's the security? Like, oh, and then they're saying, oh, they're in Mexico. No, bro, they're in Denver. Like, there should be security. Like, you shoot yourself
in an NFL stadium.
Yeah, right. No, it was definitely a quality game. I'm super excited to see Mexico and USA in the CONCACAF qualifying and in the World Cup because at the end of the day, we're all CONCACAF fans. If Mexico wins and if Mexico's good, if USA wins and if USA is good, it's all getting each other better. And that's the biggest thing, right? We need to show up on the big stage and need to be ready for that World Cup and that next. I mean, Mexico's never been to a semifinal, right? El quinto partido.
Well, the quinto partido will be the quarterfinals.
The quarterfinal, okay.
They've been to the quarterfinals twice, both times in home soil. After that, yes, they've never been able to have access to a semifinal. But, to be in the first, because that's another thing that gets lost in translation sometimes. Like, Mexico is really consistent. It is what it is. they're usually between in the FIFA ranking, they're between the 10 and 16 team in the world, and then when they go to the World Cups, they usually lose and end up being between the 15 and the 18th team in the world. So you're like, but that's where Mexico is. Like, there's no real like, oh, they overachieve. They stay there, and there's it's good to have consistency,
right?
But at the end of the day, you want to grow, and if you're making past that, you're just not doing it right.
Yeah, and that player Linus, man, that kid looks so good. He's like the Mexican Messi. I mean, I understand why I guess I understand why he came off the bench, because he made an impact right away. I mean, right away, he scored a goal off the bench. But Raul Jimenez wasn't there. What was going on with him? Did it personal reasons, Tata Martino or things, something like that?
No, remember that he had that skull fracture, and he's just coming back.
Got it.
He started practicing with the team. He made he had a couple of practices with the national team, but then everybody decided that it was better for him to focus on the last part of his recovery. Move on to the preseason with Wolverhampton, which he seems like he's going to stay at least for another year, and then go from there. It was a really bad injury. He's going to be wearing one of those like the security helmets like a la Peter Cech or Christian Kibu probably for the rest of his career.
Oh dang!
So
is he going to be able to head the ball?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's made a full recovery. One of the advantages of what happened was that even though he had that fracture and he had to have surgery for it to, kind of like clean that area and let the brain not swell and whatever, he's been able to make a full recovery. So he's not
awesome.
He's not have a problem with that. And people, and I mean, Mexico really misses him.
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially if that game had him, it would have been completely different. They would have had a real 9. I know Chucky Lozano doesn't really play that striker position for Napoli, so this Mexico team is going to be even stronger. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what goes on in these next USA Mexico games.
And looking at when I look at the game, because I watch it again today, with a cool head, because when your emotions are rampant, you watch a different game, and then you think things are a certain way, and then you jump on Twitter, right?
Right.
And then you realize that you were not watching the game, right. And Mexico is the only team where that happens to me. Everything else I can watch it with a cool head. Mexico is the only one that I kind of get emotional on it.
There's passion. I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and mind you, I would never get into a fight with somebody if he was watching the US. Like I don't get to that point. But I can see why my analysis wouldn't be
fair
the way it's supposed to be and wouldn't be fair. I watch it again, and after I watch it again, it's like, man, Mexico missed so many open opportunities. Like I was like, how did that happen? Because had Mexico put away the 3 or 4 they had in the first half, it would be a totally different storyline. Right now, I feel like everybody in the media will be destroying the US.
Right.
But and then on the other hand, I feel like everybody's so happy about the victory that they don't realize they did not play a good game.
Yeah, no. Berhalter, didn't have a good game.
They were able to capitalize in 2 big mistakes from Mexico, especially in dead ball situations. The second one being a gift from the right back from Mexico to get that corner kick.
Yeah. It hit him in the knees. Yeah, I do remember that.
But they didn't really create any opportunities. Obviously, on extra time with everybody tired, the penalty, which again is like a really controversial penalty on both sides, both the handball and both on police.
You see how the ref called it? He was like,
he was really excited about that. Which is one of those things. Another thing that fits into that Mexican narrative that nobody in the area likes this. When you see that he's gonna call a penalty and he just didn't call it, but like he wind up and like pushed it. It's like
I've never seen a ref do that. He felt it. He felt in the moment there.
It's like, let me wind up my arm and okay, thanks.
Right. No.
But after giving Tata a red card for him going to hug him.
Right.
Funny too.
But one of the craziest games I've ever seen. Again, one of the best games I've ever seen. I maybe thought the Uruguay Ghana World Cup game was a little crazier just because of the stakes, but that one's almost up there. Yeah, right. The hand of God of Uruguay, right? So that, and then he misses that penalty. I as a kid, that's what got me really into soccer. I remember that moment. I was like, oh my God, this is my country of 3 million people, so small. And here they are with controversy kicking Africa out of the World Cup, and at that point it was in African soil and the last African team. But but onto a little bit of Quake stuff. Is there any last things you want to say about the Mexican team?
No, I'm just really excited what's coming up. We'll see what happens in qualifiers, because qualifiers also this US team will have to go and play on CONCACAF soil. because even if this is huge for them, and it's good for them to win a final after not being able to beat Mexico for 14 years, there's little things here and there that with all the quality players that they have, and to me the most important, because a lot of people jump into the Christian Pulisic train because he wins the Champions League, he scores a goal yesterday, he shoots everybody.
Right.
I think the real player on this team, on the U.S. national team, the player that I'm excited the most is Gio Reyna. I think Gio Reyna is the best player the U.S. has ever had.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it like that.
Wow. Really? Okay.
Better than like he's obviously really young, but the potential he has to grow, he's going to be better than any of the players that they ever had before. And he's already showing it, and he's already 18 years old. So I think Gio Reyna is really exciting. To me, he was one of the best players yesterday, even when things were not showing up. Because Christian had a really discreet game. If he hadn't got that penalty, he would have done nothing. He didn't have not even a shot on goal. He was not showing up. He was not getting the ball. He was not making a difference. And Gio even came in back and helped out defending a couple of times. So I'm excited for the potential of the U.S. to actually be more competitive and show, but. Yeah. I think it's going to be because Gold Cup is not going to be a good test for them either because they're home.
Right.
You're home. You have all the facilities. You can get to a nice hotel, go back.
That's true. Yeah.
When you have to go play in Cuscatlan, when you have to go play in the Olímpico in San Pedro Sula, it's not going to be the same thing.
No, definitely.
And I want to see how the U.S. reacts to that. And with Mexico, I mean, hopefully these laws can help them pull it together and be able to have a good performance just to make it to the World Cup.
Yeah, but as a Mexico fan, you obviously know that your star striker isn't there. Are you thinking like, you know what? Okay, this is okay because we don't have Raul Jimenez there or even Chicharito. I mean, that was pretty controversial. We didn't have one of those star-studded strikers, and maybe the next time we do have, and that makes you feel a little better, right?
I mean, if Mexico wasn't creating chances at all, because a lot of people were saying, but they don't create chances for the number 9. It doesn't matter. They're not. They designed that team or that place right now to not do that. You have Chucky Lozano's speed, you have Lainez's speed, you have Antuna's speed. So instead of feeding into the number 9 position, which you will do differently if you had Raul, and that's why the team was different. Tata knows that he doesn't have him, and I think Henry Martin did a pretty decent job, like opening the ball for Chucky and for Lainez. And I mean, there was a couple of plays even on the game before that against Costa Rica, where Henry received the ball, turned around, gave it to Lainez, and Lainez could shoot it wide. And then Howard had a couple of saves that were really good from mid range, and then closing down the angle. So have El Tecatito and Chucky being a little more decisive on their finishing, I think it will be different. And that's why I'm not worried that they're missing a number 9. I think they're creating the chances. They just need to put it away. And sometimes, there's nights like yesterday.
Yeah.
You don't pull things away. It gets emotional. And it's not about tactics. Those games specifically, I don't think it's about tactics. It's fear.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're playing a rival. It gets in your head, and the mistakes get in your head. So that's what it was. But I'm not worried. I think for years, I mean, for many years, Mexico didn't seem to have a shape. Now they do. With Tata, it seems like they have a structure. You know what they're playing. You know what they're trying to do. And yes, there will be mistakes and things that you need to clean up in the way. But I'm not worried about it.
And I saw a couple of tweets last night, about the player Musa, where he's not really American, but he was born on vacation in America. But they were all saying, like, man, you sure this guy really wants to play for U.S.? Like you said, your comment of having a hotel in El Salvador or Honduras. You really want to play for U.S., play those CONCACAF matches away? I don't know. Right? Especially seeing what you saw last night.
And with that, I think it's one of those things like, it all depends, because you always go play where you have the best chance to be a star and make it to a World Cup.
Yeah.
And honestly, having 3 slots and a half, I think that's what CONCACAF is right now.
Yeah.
If you're not 1 and 2 with Mexico, regardless of whether you're first or second, I mean, you're really not doing something right.
Right. Yeah. CONCACAF has a lot of spots. I mean, relative to what the other, like Cullen Bowl, they're fighting for those, I think 5 or 4.5 spots. So it's kind of crazy. And the quality down there is insane too. But we got Copa America coming. Let's see if that happens, right? So especially, I don't understand why they just don't move it to America like the Centenario was. I mean, United States is one of those countries where you can call them the next day and get it done. I mean, everybody's vaccinated, everybody's happy. You still sell games, and I think that's the biggest thing. The revenue that it brings isn't going to the local businesses, and that might be one of the biggest reasons.
I mean, I talked to somebody who's really involved
Mm,
with with logistics and business
mm,
and the business side of sports. His name is Walter Franco. If people want to follow him on Twitter, he has really
mm.
good insight for those things. And Walter was saying that it seems easy because they can,
Yeah.
but because it's an international tournament, you got to bring it here, and there's things that you got to move around when the economy is just reopening.
Mm.
You'll be hesitant to be like, yeah, sure, bring it over.
Uh,
Um, as a host country, like they already have to deal with Copa Oro. There's, you have to see the travel, what they have available, the accommodations, where you
right.
put them, because that you kind of need to help the teams do that.
Yeah.
And he said that the turnaround was probably something that they used the Zoom or US Soccer or whoever was on this side didn't just want to take over. So.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, because thinking Texas alone, they could do it. I mean, with all the stadiums out there.
Or
But
Florida,
yeah, or Florida, right? In Miami. Ooh, that would have been nice.
Miami, Tampa, Orlando,
Yeah, right.
Jacksonville,
Right. They could
you're
have easily
covered.
done it. Yeah, but well, we're all looking forward to it. Hopefully it does happen. I know there's some talks that it might not happen, but hopefully at the end of the day we get to see some soccer. And the Olympics now. Oh my goodness. It looks like the Olympics. I know Carlos, you're going, right? So it's something you want to see happen, but man, some horrible news coming out of the Olympic front in Japan. I guess the director in Japan, the Olympics director, unfortunately took his own life because it just looks like the outlook isn't looking like it's going to happen. And it's sad to hear that. And here it's so normal, right? It's so normal in Japan. If something doesn't go your way in your work life, that unfortunately takes over you and your personal life. And yeah, this COVID around the world is completely different than COVID in the United States. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Right now, everything seems to be set.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of news coming in. There's already a big contingency from whoever is organizing it to be
Yeah.
over there. There's a lot of rules that already are in place that
Mm,
we're going over with the protocols and quarantine and things like that. And at the end of the day, I mean, it also, there was a big push from the athletes because you work all your life for
right.
those for that moment to run and do. And yes, there's a lot of limitants. There are a lot of things that are tough, but I see that they have in this sense they will have to happen,
Right.
and we'll see, and at the end we'll see how they turn out, if we're there, and again we'll see how those things. I mean, you know better than anybody.
Yeah.
You're actually over there, so you're able to consume it locally.
Yeah.
But in that sense, there's a lot of things that don't travel or that I get lost in the mix when we
Right.
have to do those things.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, right now, again, everything seems in place.
Mm,
We seem to be having one of the biggest coverage we ever had,
yeah. That's
and
awesome.
if that happens, if that happens, then we'll bring it with the same, with the same idea that will happen if we had a full stadium, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. In the Quakes news, I mean, Daniel Slayton's going to go over there too for the NBC side. Have you talked to her yet, or have you
Funny enough,
exchanged?
at the moment we're recording this,
Oh,
tomorrow I'm having an interview. I'm putting one of the pieces of interview. I talked to her, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We talked Quakes, we talked Olympics, obviously, and
yeah,
Santa Clara, since Santa Clara just won the
yeah.
national championship here. So tomorrow I'm gonna release the Santa Clara piece of the interview, talking about like when she was there, what's different, how did she leave this new championship, and then we talk about the Olympics, her being at the Olympics, she being part of the broadcast team with us and at NBC,
Mm,
and really really excited, and it was awesome to talk to her obviously about the growth of women's soccer and
yeah.
topics.
No, definitely. Everybody check that out. I mean, if this hasn't come out yet, but go back and check it out too. So
It'll be
definitely,
there. It'll definitely be there.
yeah, no, definitely exciting stuff, especially from two Quakes people, right? So especially exciting to see you guys both go to the Olympics and then talk about women's soccer as well. And that's always fun to hear, right? With Mexico going to the Olympics, I mean, Memo Ochoa is going with the squad. So talking a little bit more about Mexico, this is a big tournament for them too. So we might not see Memo Ochoa in El Tri back home, but he's going to go with the U23s, I believe. Yeah, U23 squad.
It's not set in stone who's going yet.
Mm,
Most likely, you always take a senior goalkeeper,
yeah.
and it seems in this case it will be Memo Ochoa. And then I think they're gonna end up taking a central defender and a
Mm.
center midfielder. They wanted to take Edson Alvarez, which technically it's in the age range, but Ajax is not gonna release him. I
Oh
think the same
wow.
thing is gonna happen with Diego Lainez. I don't think Betis is gonna release him to go to the Olympics. Um,
Imagine
and the
Linus. with that 23 team, right? Gosh.
I know, and it's weird because Linus played I think it was the U17 World Cup, the U20 World Cup, and it was when all that pressure was on him when he was just playing America, and a lot of people were saying like, oh, this kid plays like Messi, and because he's lefty and the way he moves and whatever, and a lot of people felt that they were inflating the player, and then we were talking too much about him. Then he goes to Betis, he doesn't start, they sit him down, but little by little, that potential that we saw in him, it's been growing, and you can tell the work that he's done, and at some point, he's going to be a really exciting player. He's obviously not going to be there for the Olympics, unfortunately. At least I don't think so. And then we'll see who are the two senior players that go. I think it's going to be another, besides Memo, it will be a central defender, probably Carlos Salcedo, somebody who's, or Hector Moreno, somebody who's easy, that they can travel because they're in the Mexican League. And then we'll see who he brings in the middle if he can. Probably Luis Romo from Cruz Azul, from the recent champions. That seems like a good choice. He's 25. He's in a really good spot right now, and it will be easier for Cruz Azul to let him go. So we'll see who they are. They're still not set in stone. And every time they ask Jaime Lozano about it, he's like, I don't know.
No, but speaking about a little bit of Cruz Azul, champions, right? So a little bit of crazy. What do you think? I mean, it's been a long time since Cruz Azul hasn't had a championship under their belt.
And to me, it's very special because for those who might have listened to this for the first time and don't know who I am or whatever, I actually played for Cruz Azul at a junior level. I played up to, I was in third division. I played at third division for like a year and something, but I wore those colors for 4 or 5 years. And even though I was not raised a Cruz Azul fan, and I was never like a full on Cruz Azul fan, when you wear the jersey, you have love for it.
Right.
And there's times that it will hurt just to see them not being able to, because it's one of those things like, maybe I wasn't rooting for them, like in a sense of like being a full fan, but when they were in the final, I wanted it to win. It was like, that's the team I played for. I want them to have another star on their crest, and it just wouldn't happen. So it made me really happy. Because I know a lot of the players, not the current players, but a lot of players that have gone through the ranks through the years. The coaches, some people who are very dear to me that are Cruz Azul fans, and to finally see them win a championship, it was really, really special.
Yeah, and once I realized that Jonathan Rodriguez was Uruguayan, I was like, wait, I gotta look at this team. What's going on here? And he actually scored against Paraguay, but they took it back on a VAR that really shouldn't have been taken back. So
horrible call.
Yeah, right, taking away 3 points from Uruguay in the eliminatories. But I mean, God, Jonathan Rodriguez is a player where, unfortunately, or very fortunately, Uruguay just has fruits of labor in the striker position. It's like, who's this guy coming out of literally nowhere? But it's great to see that, he helped Cruz Azul get that championship, and he's part of a Uruguayan culture, so, or part of my country. And I think that's awesome. I mean, this is a brand new player that I get to see in Liga MX. Hey, Quakes, go get him.
I mean, unfortunately for the Quakes, Cabecita has to be probably one of the best paid players in the country.
Oh yeah,
not only Cruz Azul, in the whole league. So that'd be a little tough. National team player, best player in Cruz Azul. He didn't have he had this episode, I think it was last season, before the Liguilla, where they saw him at a party and whatever, one of those things that happen to soccer players. Yeah. And it was good to see him, bounce back from that and be decisive for the team and pull out the championship.
Yeah, I know. Like Chofis Lopez, our own gets in those party problems all the time too. But I guess in Mexico, you just have parties. I mean, you see now that at least on the Instagrams of all the players in San Jose, they're all in Tahoe together. I mean, they don't really have parties here.
Well, here's the thing, and that's another thing that like people need to realize, because if you really go dig into, I guess, U.S. culture is a little different. Also, the area where we live, come on, man, we live in San Jose, California. This is not like a party. This is not a party town. You literally go to Lake Tahoe.
Right.
That's your weekend thing. Right. But if you live in Miami, that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
I think one of the things that happens with Mexico and Mexican media is also like, I just don't know why they can't hide it, because this is something that happens everywhere in the world.
Right.
The Europeans have parties. In the English Premier League, they have those year-end parties that they always get drunk and they catch them once they're like crashing the cars and whatever.
Right.
It's not something that is exclusive to what happens in Mexico. But they're definitely not smart about not being found. And,
right.
No, again, but it's not that it's right, and I don't condone it, but that at some point it's like, dude, you got to stop having these pictures. Like, why?
Or like in England, they get caught smoking, right? Like, dude, you can just smoke not outside, like smoke somewhere that they can't see you, you know?
Yeah.
But no, that yeah, unfortunately, always Mexican parties, and I heard they party pretty hard down there. You know, maybe we got to go to some of those parties, Carlos.
I, I had nothing to say. I had no words about those parties. I've never seen them, and
I've
I'll
never
never see
been.
them
I've never
again.
been.
I've never been, and I will never be again.
No, but on to a little bit of quick stuff. Who's been your favorite player this season so far? I know you might have been excited for a certain player, but who's been your favorite?
I think the two players that have stepped up, or I think it's been the most consistent, at least
Mm,
in the games,
mm,
even with the losses, are Eric Remedi and Tanner Beeson.
mm.
I think Tanner stepping up for Osvaldo when Osvaldo got injured. It's a homegrown player.
Yeah,
He's young. Playing that position when you're young is really hard. You expect a lot more mistakes. He did have that own goal against LA, but it's whatever.
happens, right?
Um,
Yeah,
and again, when you're playing that position, that's why it's so hard, because you can have 67 great tackles, but then you
right,
miss that one coverage on that one-on-one coverage, and then
right.
you're screwed.
Well, he's a
And
shot blocker, so that's gonna happen eventually, right? So,
so at some point, like you're gonna miss a mark, or
right.
you're gonna be double teamed. Something's gonna happen when you're playing on that center division. But I think as a central defender, he's grown a lot. He's shown good promise, especially after watching the U.S. national team yesterday. It's good to have a player like that. Things that need to improve. And I just like what Eric Remedi has brought to this team. Besides,
Mm,
the one thing is it's a player that knows how to distribute very well, and I think
yeah.
it's being very, just because of how the Quakes play.
Mm.
Sometimes he ends up on this open space where he has to cover ground for like 40, 50 yards,
Yeah,
and people are
yeah.
expecting him to be N'Golo Kante, and N'Golo Kante there's only one in the world.
Right,
Um,
right.
it is one of those things. Like, I feel like people are so used to having a stereotype of how a player should be, right? When you
Yeah,
think
that's
about
true.
think about a goalkeeper, that you start thinking, if you're older, you think, oh, Casillas, Buffon, and it's like, yeah, but there's one of those.
Right,
You
right.
don't have that player. And the same central defender. Oh, but you see Virgil van Dijk. There's only one Virgil van Dijk.
Right,
There's
right.
only one N'Golo Kante. There's only one Messi. You can't put your expectations on any player to be at that
Right.
spot. So I think what Eric is doing is very good. He
Mm,
covers a lot. The amounts of balls he recovers,
yeah,
it's insane. If you actually count them, it's insane how many one-on-ones he covers and how he gets to the spot and then distributes. And he distributes forward. He's
yeah.
not a player that plays the ball back. He tries to play forward. Sometimes it's a short pass. It's not something that is decisive, because that's another thing. I feel like they want our central midfielders to be a little more decisive on
Mm,
the attacking third, like having
yeah,
a mid-range shot, putting balls that are assists, and sometimes you're not designed to be that player,
right.
but that doesn't mean that you're not doing it right. Like,
Mm,
you're still doing it. So I would say those two in particular. I think Tommy Thompson has also raised his level up. I think he had a
yeah,
really good preseason, and he seems really solid, even more defensively than he used to, at least last season.
definitely.
And everybody else, I kind of it's been like this. I
Right.
feel I'm looking at more like consistency, that being like, oh, he's being amazing.
Right, right. No, definitely. And yeah, especially like a player like Cade Cowell started off amazing, but it has unfortunately dimmered down to expect like reality. But a lot of it has to do with he needs to become more of a full striker. I mean, the opportunities he's gotten in the past games or the last four losses have been things that he does need to improve on. Where in the first two games, he got it where he loves it, right? Where it's the ball in open space and it's basically a sprint. He's able to pick his head up and pick out a pass and get an assist where it has a lot more space. But now he's getting double teamed, and that's the hardest part of his, I guess, his new position where he has to hold up the ball and he has to have his back towards the center back, and that's where he starts to get a little bit like show that he's, hey, I'm a 17-year-old kid and I still need to practice a little more on these things and get game time in. As well as I feel like maybe Chofis Lopez, the lately these last four games he's been asked to do a little bit more defensively and he has been going less forward, so it's just been a little bit kind of a stalemate, right? We've been like the one goal in four games has been a little bit of a funk where possibly we need to see something open up, maybe a formation change, but who knows with Almeida, right? It's Almeida's world and we're just living in it.
And the thing is that I feel the first couple of games, there's always tendencies, right?
Yeah.
In world soccer, and right now the tendency is to high press.
Yeah.
Let's high press the Guggen present, right? The Gegen present.
Yeah.
Go all at it. Let's close down the lanes in the front with the defenders. And the teams that did that against the Quakes were in for a good rude awakening because they
Right.
will have to push the lines forward, leave space behind, and Kate Cabo was destroying them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, that happens to games. The teams that you're facing, and it's also the block of teams you got in there.
Yeah.
The teams that you're facing, to me, that those 3 games that you lost in a row were at least the 3 teams that I think are the actual contenders in the West.
Yeah, exactly.
Portland, Seattle, and Kansas City are definitely, to me, the 3 biggest contenders in the West.
Yeah.
So when you play those teams that are very well coached, that have really good players, that have players with experience, so what they did, they switched not their formation. They just switched the tactics. Like, instead of pressing them high, let's press here in 3/4 of the field, but then let's wait for them, because that's what they can do. They don't have a striker that can cross the ball and kill us.
Right.
So we hold back a little bit and we don't let the spaces behind us. Christian the fast players, because there's a lot of fast players. Yeah. Christian Espinosa is not going to get behind us. Carlos Fierro is not going to get behind us, and Kate Cabo is not going to get behind us. So you keep the game in front of you, and then counter attacks will kill them.
Right.
Because Matias starts pushing forward. There's a lot of players pushing forward. You'll find those one-on-ones with your forwards. Kind of what happened with Sporting Kansas City. Like, you have a player with that much experience like Alan Pulido.
Right.
He also he's on a one-on-one with 30, 40 yards in front of him. And of course, he's going to make the right decision. And in that sense, I don't think Matias needs to change, but you have to put away the chances that you're making, because they start very well. They create chances, and then you miss these wide open shots. Because it's not even like, well, it was a 3/4, like it wasn't like a 20-yard shot that hit the crossbar, made the goalkeeper made a save. Like, it's literally a sitter.
Right.
It happened to Andy Rios. It happened to Wondo. Like, it's coming also from players that you wouldn't expect that to happen.
Like Wondo,
And if you're not pulling those balls away on the opportunities that you're creating, then what that happens? You end up losing 1-0.
Right.
So again, I don't think Matias. There's not a lot of Matias needs to change in that sense. You just have to be the confidence that we're doing this right, and then we need to put it away, because then he lets you play with it. Because it's the same. Because a lot of people think of formations, right? The formation is what makes the difference, and it's not. You could have a 4-4-2 with all 10 players inside the box, or a 4-4-2 with 2 defenders and everybody on the other box, and it's a 4-4-2. It makes no difference. 4-3-3 is the same. You can end up having a 2-5-1 with a 2-5-1-1. Like, it's the same formation. You're just placing them differently on the field.
Right.
So if you're putting away a shot in the minute 25 and then you score another one in the minute 27, then you can play on the counter attack, because you live the same formation, you move back, and then you have different tactics.
Right.
Constantly, the Quakes, because they don't pull these balls away, they find themselves reeling back and trying to go forward. And that's the only thing that I always give Matias is, like, he's an offensive coach. He goes after the game. Even if he kills you, like what happened with Sporting Kansas City, it's like, let me go after it. They score on us. It doesn't matter. I'm still gonna go after it. Because then if you start, let me be cautious and keep the 1-0 and see if I can tie it on it, then again, like, I think people will be even more mad if that happens.
Right. And it still shows that he's an offensive coach, because we're sitting with 9 points even after these 4 losses. I mean, what if we tied a couple of these games? We wouldn't have 9 points, and we're still above the playoff line amazingly. So it's definitely nice that he's an offensive minded coach, because he goes for that win, even if we're down 2-1 or 1-3. He still wants to go for that win, and that's something we as Quakes fans should really appreciate, because a couple of years ago we had Dom Kinnear ball where he would just go for the tie or go for the 0-0, and man, that was not fun soccer. So definitely we should be very appreciative of Matias Almeida, even if we're losing. Again, we're losing with the want to win, and that's completely different than losing with the want to tie. That's beautiful soccer, something that we're all here for, right, Carlos?
I mean, you're always, again, you play to win, right? Yeah. You're always playing to win, or at least you should always play to win. And then the season's so long, like, of course it sucks to, like, and that's another thing, like, it sucks to lose, and it sucks to lose 4 in a row. And the only one that I was really like, this was ugly, was the Sporting Kansas City game. Because again, against Seattle, it was like, man, it was like so close.
Right.
Then against Portland, it was the same. It was like, are you serious? Like, they could have just tied that instead of them taking away the game. But then Kansas City happened. I was like, well, that was not like, And I think I said it somewhere before
Mm.
that the other games was also like when you crunch those 3 games in a single week, one of them had to fall, and people were starting to give me their own takes on like, no, but I think they should have let the game against Seattle slip, so then you could be stronger against Portland. Like, you don't play like that.
Yeah,
Nobody
right,
says
right,
I'm gonna drop this game, but physically, you're gonna not be top on all 3 games. It's like
right,
if I did really well on Friday, and then I had to play on Sunday, and then I had to play again on Wednesday,
right,
one of the games is not gonna look good because you never know what happens with the players. Like somebody might get a knock,
right.
somebody might feel a little more tired because
Mhm.
that specific game, the player that they were facing, they try to get the quakes on the left side instead on the right side. So all of a sudden, Kate was making more runs than
Mm.
usual. Those things you can't control because that's why the game evolves, and the in-game things are not under your control.
Right.
And again, like a lot of us like to talk tactics, see tactics, and you
Mhm.
see it as a couch analyst, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really, and sometimes you feel like, oh, but there's the answer. And then once you watch the game, like if you watch the game consistently like 2 or 3 times after,
Mhm.
obviously you're gonna take all the stuff that happened that was wrong, but that already happened, so it's
Right,
easier for
right.
me to say like, in this case, if you should have done that, it's like, man, that was when that was developing, you have to think on your toes, and it doesn't look the same way.
Yeah.
So again, that was those 3 games were crunched together. It was weird. Of course, one of them, again, one I knew one of them was not going to be good, and ended up being, I think the Portland game was a little less, but it was still very close.
Yeah.
But then they had a whole week to plan for Sporting Kansas City,
Mm.
and when they had a full week, you're like, it's going to look, even if they lose, because again, like you have no control what's going to happen. They might have lost,
Right.
but at least it would have looked a little better. And I
Mm.
think that one was really sloppy in a lot of senses. So I wasn't happy with that one. Then against Galaxy was against like very even, and
Right.
then it was a mistake. More like bad fortune
Right,
that
really,
decided
really.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and then again, now you have a break, and the players kind of clear their heads and come back, like the season just starts again.
Right, and when they come back, we're still above the playoff line, so it's not like the world is coming down on us. Like again,
And the playoffs
LAFC.
are what? October?
Yeah, right, right, right. And LAFC is still below us. So I mean, if anybody should be ringing the alarm, that's them. I mean, they have a big payroll, so definitely something that we should be okay with. And with the Sporting Kansas City game, all I have to say is Alan Polito. I mean, that's brilliance in a game, right? That player. I mean, maybe we see him for El Tri with that type of performance, but he should be. I mean, guys, this guy's a quality player. I mean, a lot of us thought he was just a penalty maker when he was coming in from Chivas, and we were like, we don't want to pay 12 million for a penalty maker. But that's what happened, guys. I mean, that beautiful pass to where he opens it up on his outside foot. I mean, fuck, that's a game. I mean, that's a player that's ready for the moment, and unfortunately, we don't have that type of payroll just yet. Hopefully, who knows? I mean, who knows, right? In the next couple of years, if the A's move and they sell the team, who knows, right? So,
But it all depends who they sell it to, because sometimes you're in
yeah,
a
that's true.
you seem like you're in a you're not in a place where you want to be, or
Oh,
you're complaining like, oh, I don't really like the place where I'm at. But it
that's true. Yeah.
depends on who they sell it to. If they sell it
Right.
to a really great organization that has everything very well put together, you're obviously in a better place because they'll be able to make better signings. But
Yeah.
if they end up selling the team, at least right now you have the Moneyball, and the Moneyball has something
Right.
that's been able to maintain the A's competitive and the Quakes competitive in a
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
It hasn't translated fully into a championship because you need the
Right.
big stars and big names that make difference for that to happen. But
Yeah.
you never know. One of these homegrown players might develop into your
Right.
next big thing, and as long as you keep doing it, that's good for the team. That's good for MLS. That's good for U.S. soccer, and
Right.
then that's good for a national team as well.
Yeah, and speaking of possibly seeing some of our players that have been through our ranks go, I mean, Jackson Yule with this showing in the U.S. men's national team maybe wasn't the best showing, but at least it got some eyeballs on him. So maybe we see him go to a European club maybe next year or this year, who knows, right? So definitely Eric Remedi has done a good replacement job if it need be, right? So I feel like we might see him leave.
I This might sound crazy, and again, this is my idea. Matias must be like, "You're crazy, Carlos. I don't care." I mean, you've been in the press conferences. I think a triangle that I would think it will work really well would
Mm,
be Eric with Judson,
yeah,
both as defensive mid, and having Jackson in front of them
right.
instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Chokis. because I feel a lot of people are playing Jackson Joel as that like kind of what I call like that mixed midfielder,
Yeah,
that
yeah, the
box
box
to
to box.
box, the
Yeah.
box to box midfielder, and I don't necessarily think that he's good at.
Mm,
I don't think he's good at recovering balls.
mm.
He recovers them because
He
he
has
plays
to,
with
right?
heart.
Yeah,
He plays with heart, and he goes. But I don't think it's his best asset. I think he's more of an offensive,
definitely.
So if you put somebody like Eric or Judson behind him, and then he helps them recover it, but then finds the ball in front of him to actually have that mid-range shot that he's really
Yeah,
good at, or stepping into the box if there's a cross, or
yeah,
distributing out. I think Jackson will show a little more, and you saw it with it. Obviously, it was a age limit tournament, but I think he looked a lot better on the Olympic squad that he's looked everywhere else.
yeah.
And
No,
one of the reasons
definitely.
why he shined so much there was, one, because he has experience, and second, because he was playing that position. He was not so worried about defending because the US didn't have to worry so much about defending until they found Mexico, and then that's also why they lost.
Right.
So on the times that he didn't have to find it, he was very decisive.
Mm.
And I think if at some point they try to play him on that instead of Chofis on that position, like that kind of like roaming
Yeah.
forward, to call it for a sense, or like that enganche,
Hmm.
or center mid, I think he'll be pretty good at it. I mean, again, Matias might say that I'm crazy, and he obviously can't do that, but
So yesterday I had Charles Wolin from Black and Azul on, and he was talking about maybe what if we saw like a Christian Espinoza being a secondary striker to Cade Cowles stretching the back line. And I was thinking, oh, that wouldn't be a too bad of idea, but where do you put Trophies, right? And you even saying putting Yule in that spot now too. So like maybe like a 10 roll. Yeah, where does Trophies go? Does he go to the right side? Does he go to the left side? I mean, to see Trophies, maybe we need Marcos Lopez on that side, someone that's better to get the ball, track back, and be a little more sound defensively, because I haven't seen too much defensively from Trophies. And I think that's the biggest issue with either putting him on the wings, right? Especially in this system.
and Chofis, I don't think he has the stamina or the fitness to play on the wings under
Mm.
this Matias Almeida system.
Mm.
You could, in a sense, for example, you can't really combine them all, but let's say at some point something's got to give, and again, there's so many games that
Right.
rotation of players is important. So let's say on Charles' idea that we don't start with two center forwards. Let's say you actually take Cade out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Take it out and you put Chris there.
Mm.
You could technically, having Cade behind him, Jackson behind him, you could technically play Chofis on the wing, and either Judson or Remedi help him out on those defensive moves, because he could move
Yeah.
outside a little bit to try and help, and have Jackson drop in.
Mm.
So there's a lot of combinations there for things to happen. Again, I think the same problem that happens with the Mexican national team, or at least right now, even though they do have Alan Pulido,
Yeah.
It's that the team is not designed for that center forward. Like, either you actually have full center forward where you send crosses in, like kind of like what happens with Wondo. Just Wondo is not that player anymore, and it's also a little tougher when teams push back and you're just, especially what happened with Seattle and Portland, they're waiting for you. So it's like, okay, so I need to break them down another way. I cannot just be sending crosses and figure out my number 9 is gonna, cash one in.
Definitely.
So, I think it will be it will be an experiment for sure. But having two center forwards, it all depends on what the other team presents to you. Because I think that we focus a lot on what the Quakes need to do.
Yeah.
Oh, they should switch things around. It's like, but they're creating the opportunities,
right?
And technically they're defending well. Problem is that they have these lapses, and that's not on Matias. Like, if you make a mistake coming out, if you make a mistake, on your marking, well, that's execution. That's not planning.
Right, and then Christian Espinoza wasn't playing well when we were winning. So again, this is the whole team. It's not just guys like Chris Rondolowski or Andy Rios. It's Christian Espinoza missed a couple of good. I mean, he missed a penalty, and then he missed a sitter, I believe. It happens to the whole team, and the whole team is having a problem finishing.
And even with the penalties, you saw it's like Christian missed the penalty, and then on that same game, just because of how things happened, they got another penalty, and that's when Osvaldo came in and took care of it. But they've been struggling with putting those things away. Right. So again, to me, it's execution. There's those components when you go. There's a mental component. There's your tactics component, and there's your execution component.
Right.
And I think the Quakes have been missing on the execution more than on the tactics. Like
Yeah.
they to me, they look fine, and at certain points they dominate the game. But if you're dominating and you don't score, it makes no difference. Again,
Right.
and I think that the Mexico example from yesterday like comes in perfect. If you go back and look at the game and you see the possession that Mexico had and the amount of shots they had and the amount of saves that the US had, both from Stephen and at the end, you're like, but Mexico was better. And it's like, well, not, because they gave away 2 goals in dead ball situations. So you can't say they were better. But why were they going to change their tactics?
Right.
They shouldn't have changed their tactics. They just needed to put away they just needed to execute well what they were doing.
Yeah. And now thinking back, Wondolowski missed a penalty too against Portland. And that game, what if we got 1 point out of that game and then we would have gone into Sporting feeling different, right? I mean, this whole funk wouldn't have happened if we scored that penalty against the 4th string goalie. I mean, nowadays they actually have former San Jose Earthquakes David Bingham in goal, but I mean that was a USL type of goalie, and he showed up in the moment just like Horvath last night. And I mean, became the hero for that moment.
And even the game before, what happened with Frey getting injured against the Quakes, and they end up playing a field player. You can score on a field player, like
it hits him in the chest. Like the long cross literally hits him in the chest. He misses it with his hands, and then it hits him in the chest. And it's like, oh my god, nothing's going in.
So again, like if you can't finish,
right?
You know, again, is that Matias's fault?
Right.
No, it's not Matias's fault. You know, the team needs to be kind of accountable, and Matias protects the players a lot. So and again, he's not gonna. It's not also your place as a coach to come and throw anybody under the bus, especially not with us with the media. Like no coach in the world is gonna come out and say like this guy missed and it's his fault and he's an idiot. Nobody's ever gonna do that. And even if like doesn't matter. And even in close quarters, he wouldn't even tell that in front of the team. If he feels there's something, like for example with Chris, if he feels that Espinosa is not performing, he'll pull him aside in another time and be like, hey, listen. This is happening. You need to improve. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
that's how you manage the team.
Just like in a regular workplace. I mean, you won't call them out in front of everybody, right? You would pull them aside, and
you shouldn't.
Yeah, right. You should.
If you see it happen, that's not right.
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of wraps it up for us today, Carlos. I really appreciate your time. We talked a lot. We talked about Mexico. We talked about the Olympics, and then we got finally into the Quakes. So thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. I mean, really excited. You know, I really like talking to you, Fabian, and I think I'm gonna be seeing you soon. I actually a quick anecdote that I think we can just like go over. That's really hilarious. You asked Matias if the players are gonna have time off.
Yeah, right. I just thought
they're gonna be working.
Yeah,
so
right.
They gave me vacations day. But again, you asked him if the whole time was gonna be like that.
Right. Need to tweak it a little bit. Yeah.
But they're going to be on vacation the whole time until you know, which, you know, it is true.
But it was funny because I was on Instagram this morning and I looked at my wife. I was like, hey, like, didn't Matias tell me they were going to be practicing and no vacation? Like, what's going on? Like, what? Yeah. But then I was like, Matias lied to me. I literally said Matias lied to me. But I guess I didn't say it in the best way because I was, you know, it's the funniest thing. I'm normally speaking English, but when I walk into these press conferences, I'm thinking in Spanish because it's a different cariño. It's different, like, it's a different feeling when you're asking him in Spanish. And I translated it from Spanish to English and I was like, oh, that didn't sound right. Because the way like you would say something in Spanish, it's kind of like playful. It's kind of friendly. It's kind of with cariño, but it's not in English. And it's just like, oh shit, I shouldn't have asked that, you know?
I mean, that's what Agustin is there for. So you still Agustin.
Right.
I was kidding, but I thought that was funny because I also thought about it when I saw them like having the asado and Eric Remedi is in New York.
He's in New York too.
I was like, you know, it's funny because there's like, no, we're going to like tank down and it's fine. Again, I'm not criticizing. I just thought it was funny that like you particularly asked that and they're like, no, there's no vacation. Well, maybe some days, but not all days. At
least the Argentinian guys and Osvaldo, I think, are together in Lake Tahoe. At least they could say we were bonding. I mean, we were working on our chemistry.
And again, because the break's so big and you don't really. Why are you gonna tune up for? Like you really don't have anything to tune up for. So you know they might have a plan that if they're all together, they can just execute it. They get up, they work out, they do the work they have to do. They even bring a soccer ball, they do whatever they have to do in between them. That takes 2-3 hours, and then that's it, and call it a day. I really enjoy the fact that they're together. That's
Right,
something
right,
that to me it's incredible. It's I think speaks volumes.
and it's a
What
lot of
this
them,
team
right?
is,
Yeah,
because it's 4 or 5 of them together with
yeah,
their family.
right. Maybe they brought
So
Guido along to just practice a little bit, like on the beach, right? Just hey, can you do some training drills or something?
they're definitely in touch with him, because one of the things that they talked about today on their Insta stories was
Yeah,
specific. Oh, thanks Guido for the recommendation. So of course they're in touch with
yeah,
Matthias. And I think that's something that, at least on that sense, on what it comes to making a group and
mm,
having everybody on board, I think that's something Matthias does very well.
yeah,
He has done that on every team he's been in. That's what makes him successful.
yeah.
And again, I really enjoy it, and I thought it was funny. And the other thing is that Japan just released a 100-year anniversary jersey.
Yeah. I got one of those for Dom from Quakes After 90. He asked me to buy one.
I was gonna do the same thing.
He should have asked me. I literally. Oh my God, Carlos, you should have asked me.
Really me dio pena. The reality is that me dio pena.
No, anytime. I mean, I can still look. But anytime you need something like that, tell me seriously. It's okay, because here
it's recorded now.
Yeah, in Japan, I can call them, like the store, and be like, yeah, ship it to me. I don't have to pay until the guy shows up at my door. It's the craziest thing. So it's like, what? In America, you have to put your phone, your credit card over the phone. And now he's like, yeah, it's okay. We'll ship it to you. The shipping from Osaka to where I am at in Miyaken is like maybe 3 hours driving. Oh, it's $3 shipping. I was like, okay, yeah, just send it to me. I'm not gonna drive that. No, but seriously, Carlos, anytime, really, anything you want from Japan, I got you.
All right, so it sounds good.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, I guess that wraps it up for us. I mean, I want to bring you back on to speak a little Spanish. So once we get the Spanish thing going on, I'll definitely bring you back on.
Absolutely. Pues, ya sabes que además para mí el español todavía es más fácil. Even though the English sounds like I'm okay, el español es todavía mejor.
Yeah, we have a lot of English fans, so I'm trying to build the Spanish fans. If you guys know any Spanish people that want to join and listen, definitely send it to them. But all I have to say is we're here for the Quakes, and I just want to say go Quakes, right?
That's right, go Quakes. And hopefully we come back to turn it around and things start moving forward. But yeah,
they will.
Excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys.